Hey there, Glenn with the Toy Temple, and today I thought I'd take a look at the Build-A-Figure Juggernaut from 2016. Now, this Juggernaut had its wave, and it was a spectacular wave. It had Wolverine in his brown suit, classic 90s Rogue, Phoenix, Kitty Pryde, Iceman, Havoc, Cable, and Deadpool was optional, but what a Deadpool that was. Juggernaut though, each piece enormous. I mean, just his arm fits in the grip of my hand. He's a big dude. And this is the style of Build-A-Figure I appreciate. A giant sculpt and functional. I know people prefer the Marvel Select version, but I like this one. I think it just fits better, and yeah, it's a little smaller than the Select, but hear me out. This Juggernaut scales very well with the other Marvel Legends. For example, let me grab brown suit Wolverine. And yeah, that is enough size comparison for me to tell you that's a big Build-A-Figure. And that is how the standard should be. Let's get Wolverine out of here, because the show is now, it's Juggernaut's time. And this Juggernaut, he's got issues, but I like him a lot. Here, I'll explain. So one thing that I dislike is he has waist swivel, but the belt inhibits it because it can't go far enough down to really do much with it. So if you want him to like have that running pose, you really got to stress that belt. And you only get the one belt, and especially now in 2020, it's kind of hard to find. So don't stress the belt, otherwise it'll break. He does have single jointed elbows, which I never like, but I get for larger figures, because if they had the double jointed, the arms would be 3 times as large, and I don't want that. He does have functional hinges on his wrists, which is good. The deco sometimes slides down on his forearms near the bicep swivel, but it's not too bad, and it easily goes back up. He does have those old school ball joint hips from Toy Biz, but you almost can't even tell just with how muscly his thighs are. Double jointed knees, no boot cut, even though they're clearly boots. And then he does have ankle rockers and ankle pivots. His head, by the way, does have some range of motion, and you can make him look all the way around, and it doesn't really get too inhibited. He's a very noisy figure, you notice that? And that's due to his ab crunch. It kind of scrapes a little bit. He rubs a lot, and I haven't seen that affect the figure. I've had this for a pretty long time, but I've not had it really affect the look or anything like that with it. Paint-wise, cleanly painted vertical lines all along his rib cage. Looks good. The brown, show and comic accurate. I know years later from this first one, they re-released it in a 2-pack with Colossus, but I prefer the browner reddish look. The full red is just a little bit too comic-y for me. I don't know, the brown just seems more realistic. I wish the bolts up at his head were painted, maybe a different color, because you almost kind of forget that they're even there. It's a shame. See, the moment I touch that arm, that deco starts falling off. I'd like to see maybe an unmasked head. I know, again, they included that in the 2020 version, but it would have been cool to have a secondary head, because looking at it, the eyes are like a mile apart. So I wonder how it would look without the mask, and you can't really take that off without breaking the whole head mold, and I don't want to tell you just how rare that thing is. He is a very, very beefy, very cool looking Build-A-Figure. I'm going to give him a 4.5 out of 5. I easily collected that whole wave just to get this guy. Great decision on my part. Pat on the back for finding Kitty Pryde and Rogue and, you know, all those characters for fairly cheap. I think I got in at just the right time. I like to brag about how cheaply I found that Rogue for, and I'm going to do it again. $13 on Amazon. Just crazy how much she goes for these days. But this Juggernaut, fantastic. Really deserving A solid score, and I like him. He fits on my X-Men villain shelf perfectly because he is one of the original X-Men villains, and what a specimen this thing is. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Hit like, share, subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite Juggernaut story is, if he has one. I don't know. I know he was in Deadpool 2. That was cool, right? Hey, how about Vinnie Jones in X-Men 3? He was the Juggernaut. It's a kid. Yeah, forget about it. But yeah, hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, both at The Toy Temple. And remember, you're never too old to enjoy the things you love.